another episode of On the Ball with GFA. Today we're joined by our General Secretary, Mr. Ken Martin Whitman. Mr. Whiteman, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
How are you today?
I'm good.
That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
I'm having a good day.
That's great. I know you're very busy getting things done within the Secretariat. How is that been going for you?
Well, being busy is not new.
That is
Being
true.
busy is very common to football.
That is true.
Yeah, there's always so much on the table
Mhm.
to be done. And I think the responsiveness and the capacity over the last year or so has increased, and which makes it a little easier, but it's always been busy.
Yeah, that's
It's
wonderful.
always been a hot, busy seat.
It is. Being the boss is always a hot, busy seat.
Yeah.
COVID-19 that put us on the back foot, and we've been out of the office from since March. We returned in June, but being out of the office, we were still at work. How was working from home for you and staff?
Well, it was a good challenge.
Mhm.
When I say a good challenge, I saw a lot of growth in the period. Not only that we had to acquaint ourselves with the information technology, and the information technology has been out there all the time, but there wasn't a need to explore. So given the new situation, we had to quickly adapt and use to the best of our advantage.
Okay.
So familiarizing with the Zoom platform and the GoToMeeting platform kind of occupied the first part of the lockdown, first couple of weeks. And from there we were on the ball, in the sense that we were holding regular staff meetings, very, very regular staff meetings, very regular board meetings. And we used the period to do a lot of our policy articulations, because we did policies on coaching staff, policies for players, policies for the office, policies for selection of national players for national teams. So we did policies on, also were able to prepare final version of staff manuals. So we used the period very, very creatively, so that we were at a better place at the end of the lockdown than we were prior. Having returned to office in June, our immediate task then was preparation of protocols. We did the protocols for the protocol for the return to office, which was accepted, and then we did the protocol for the return to football and training, which was also accepted, and not only accepted by the COVID committee, but accepted by the rest of the associations in the football fraternity, in the sporting fraternity, because it formed the basis on which many other associations are able to prepare their own protocol for submission. So we were able to lead in that process and also assist the others in coming up to speed with their own protocols and return.
Okay, so being 2020, that was in the middle of our strategic plan. We just had it rolled out, and we had a number of things that we had to be implemented. Where are we with that? Are they on hold, or are they being pushed to a later date?
Our strategic plan, remember, was a 2019 to 2022, right? So immediately upon return, the first year of the strategic plan ran from July 2019 to July 2020. So one of the first challenges we had was to seriously go back at the plan to see if we were able, or if we're in a position, given the 3 months or so in a period of inactivity, physical inactivity, whether or not we were in a position to complete a number of tasks whose deadline was July 2020. Having recognized that the difficulty in doing same, we immediately adjusted the deadline for the short-term period of the plan from July 1919 to, because if the short-term period ran from July 1919 to July 2020. So we adjusted that in the first instance to December 2020 and give ourselves an extra period within which we will try to accomplish some of the tasks that we were not able to do during that period of lockdown. So that was the focus, and we basically achieved a significant part of the short-term objectives. The areas that needed immediate attention and needed some attention was that, especially that done with the primary schools, the question of grassroots, the question of primary school, U10, U12, U13 competitions. So these are the areas that we're still holding pending the resumption of school so that we could approach and see if we can get some level of implementation on that.
You see, we're getting assistance now from CONCACAF regarding our strategic plan. There's a boot camp coming up from this week. We have 3 days straight of that boot camp. Speak to us about that.
CONCACAF has embarked upon assisting member associations within its umbrella, under its umbrella, to developing strategic plans. So they are assisting each member association to develop a strategic plan. In the case of Grenada, they've recognized that we already have a strategic plan. So all what they're going to do with us is not develop another plan, but to revisit the current plan and see what period or what areas of enhancement can be provided. Right. They've accepted the major pillars, the 5 pillars that we have. They've seen, they looked at all the short-term, medium-term, and long-term objectives, and they're going to review all of it. The special focus, from what I believe from discussion with them, is that they are going to help us establish indicators. Okay. Yeah, indicators so that we could be able to measure our achievements, because the quantitative or qualitative indicators to help us better monitor and measure achievement in terms of our plan. So the purpose of our bootcamp, because there are other MAs that are going from the beginning because they do not have any plan, but the purpose of our bootcamp is basically to review what we have and see how best to improve what we have so that we could better be able to achieve what we aim to achieve between 2019 and 2022, the period of duration of our strategic plan.
Okay. We also see that we've received, FIFA, I should say, is giving assistance to the MAs for loss because of the COVID-19 pandemic. How has us as an MA received that funding, and how are we going to be putting it into use for competition-wise or club-wise, I should say?
Okay, FIFA would have done the COVID support. There are two elements to it. One, contribution for the development of women football, and the other, a contribution for to mitigate for the losses encountered in football, and also to assist with dealing with the challenges that the COVID pandemic could have on the sport itself. Because we know that because of the pandemic, the way this game is played, in terms of the protocols, in terms of the implementation of medical and sanitization, etc., there are going to be additional challenges, additional costs, additional considerations. So FIFA would have seen all of that and would have provided to assist us to be able to better make use and better implement our own football without having to provide from our limited resources for all these challenges. So in the case of the Grenada Football Association, a committee that COVID Women Committee was established to look at the whole question of allocation and use of the funds provided. At the initial focus, and I think there's a plan to interview the woman, the head of women football, the director for women football at the executive, Ms. Samuel. So she probably might delve a little more into it. However, our focus at this point is to develop the strategic framework for the long-term development of the women football, and based on that, we will decide on the allocation of funds for the development of women football. In the case of the other component, the executive has yet to decide on the specific use of the funds. They currently have a proposal in front of them that they're looking at. So we hope that over the next couple of weeks or so, or couple of days or couple of weeks, they would be able to make a decision on to how they're going to utilize the funds provided for the purpose of.
So we all know that COVID had affected everyone on the whole, and the clubs themselves were affected. Has GFA reached out in any way to assist them through special funding, or did they get the FIFA forward monies in advance, or to help their players themselves?
Initially during the period, you know that there was a club assistance program, a club support program that GFA would have implemented from 2019, right? Most clubs would have drawn down on the first component, on the first disbursement. They would have received the first disbursement. And during that period, GFA made it very possible for the clubs to receive the second disbursement, even if some of them would not have met all of the criteria for disbursement, but we made it possible for them to draw down on that second fund. The document under consideration by the executive also involves contribution to the clubs. Not just the clubs, but the key stakeholders. It involves some form of consideration for clubs, for conferences, for leagues that we have around the island, for referees and other stakeholders. We're also looking at the possibility of some support for football in Carriacou, and also possibility of support for some of the academies around the island. But I can't speak in details because this document is before the executive for consideration. As soon as a decision is made, we probably can share some of the details, some more of the details. So I'll stop at that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Whiteman. There you have it, guys. General Secretary Ken Martin Whitman. Thank you very much for joining us. Join us next time for another episode.